Hey, I'm Trav, and you're here to watch my Star Trek Picard Season 2 overview video. What we're talking about today is the entire season as a whole. If you want to go watch my individual reviews of episodes, they are somewhere. There's a link somewhere. The opening of the season was brilliant. We had the Stargazer, we had the introduction of all these ships from Star Trek Online, from all over the Star Trek universe and outside the actual canon universe, and it was amazing. We got to see the Stargazer, and Rios was the captain, and we got all of these promises, and all of these, we got the Borg back, and the Borg looked impressive and terrible. It cuts to Q, and Q giving Picard some sort of a feeling. And then the season progresses along the lines of they've got to fix the timeline, something's going on, they've got to save Renee Picard, an ancestor of Captain Picard, from being killed so she can go on the Europa mission and become an inspiration, and they find a mineral which allows them to create the chemical they need for warp drive. So what we have is a pretty set out storyline. The problem is the storyline isn't worth 10 episodes. And what we found is you would have episodes where nothing much would happen and you would get resets by the end. So Rios gets captured by immigration, he doesn't have any papers. Then they rescue him, then it's reset. There's no real reason for that. There's nothing, all it does is give us a social commentary. I enjoyed Star Trek Picard Season 2, much better than Season 1. Season 1 was very plotting, and I don't think really had enough story for a couple of episodes, let alone 10. Season 2 tends to have about the same problem, which is we have a lot of things happening that just seem like they're being stretched out so we can get more story. And really what they're doing is just resetting people into positions. And a lot of the other characters feel like they're not really doing anything. The Borg Queen, Jurati, Picard, and not Laris are the only characters who have any substance. Like even having another Dr. Sung played by Brent Spiner, which I just thought there is no reason for that character to be played by Brent Spiner. There was no reason for his daughter to be played by the actress who played Soji. It seemed a little bit weird. I get that it was filmed probably during COVID or some sort of restrictions on COVID, so they probably had to limit the amount of actors they could have. That probably explains a lot of Season 2. In terms of placements, I think Seven and Raffi had an interesting arc going on, but not 10 episodes worth of arc. We had a lot of play on nostalgia without a lot of play on nostalgia. I liked the Q arc. We didn't see Q very much. I liked the Jurati and the Borg Queen because there was this tension, there was this playing off each other that they both had. And that really played well. In every scene that they were in, there was a tension, the Queen being seductive, but not in a sexual way like she was in First Contact, and not in a weirdly, probably more like she was in Voyager, if anything. So the Borg Queen seducing Jurati into like getting close to her, and then eventually they end up becoming one person. My thoughts on the Borg in that situation is the Borg have been heading towards this for a while. Originally they were mindless automatons, one collective mind, no single individual. Then we got the Borg Queen, and every instance after that, and the Borg were used in Voyager a lot, every situation after that, the Borg sort of got made, the Borg Queen in particular was humanized. So to get to the point where the Borg Queen goes, okay, maybe I can do something different and maybe I can help Starfleet, kind of makes sense after all of the years that we've had the Borg Queen. I don't know if it makes sense in terms of she was in the past, so she went to the Borg to fix them. It would have taken her probably about 100, 200 years or even longer to get to the Borg living in that century. So that's kind of interesting in that I think the Borg plot makes a lot of sense. I think the Q plot kind of makes sense. I don't really get why he had to do all the kerfuffle, but I imagine that was because that is just something to get Picard to think and to move forward. And maybe the not Laris character actually was just Q making him see that so he could focus on it. Season 2 definitely struggled a lot with with the pacing of every episode. Like I remember plot points, I don't remember episodes. I remember Wesley turning up, and it very much didn't feel like Wesley to me. It felt like Will Wheaton popping up. It was kind of like the Big Bang Theory. He had that big goofy grin on, and he sort of showed up. I wasn't as excited for that. I'm like, oh look, there's Wesley. But there's nothing really. He just seemed like Will Wheaton. We didn't have any cameos from anyone else, but we did get the announcement before the finale that the entire TNG cast is coming back. And I'm excited about this, but at the same time, by the end of the season, you're like, did they just fire like 3/4 of the Star Trek Picard cast so they can get the TNG actors back? There's a lot of mixed. Like I get like shelving Elnor. I don't personally think that's a great loss. He wasn't a great character. He was like a space elf from Lord of the Rings. He's the same as every other warrior character they bring in, and they do, where they get the warrior thing and they put the code in, but they never really explore it. We were never going to see Star Trek Elnor because there wasn't enough there. There wasn't, and also Evan Vigoria is not the strongest actor, and I kind of get why he was shelved. That sounds terrible, but he's not. So my overall thoughts here are Star Trek Picard Season 2 was better than Season 1. A million times better. More pacing, the story was more interesting. I liked that Q just didn't want to die alone. I liked that he was trying to make it so Picard wouldn't die alone. I liked that the certain stories that were stretched out way too long, for example, the Borg Queen and Girardi, Q and Picard, it's very much like Rios, Seven, Raffi didn't do much. Like Seven and Raffi's basic thing was will they, won't they stay together. And Rios's one was, I've fallen in love with this doctor who runs a center. And I thought in the second to last episode that maybe he is coming back and we'll get Star Trek Stargazer, but we didn't. And then I thought, okay, and then when he said he was going to leave to stay with them, I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but he was doing quite well for himself. Like, he wasn't doing badly. So I was a bit like, okay, that's fine. When Raffi and Seven, obviously, they have to come back, I feel. I very much think that Jerry Ryan or Raffi will be in charge of the Stargazer next season. Or I think that obviously the anomaly or the transwarp hub to outside the galaxy that was created will bring something new for next season. They've obviously pre-planned next season. That's fine. I very much was disappointed by the fact that they didn't puff up the episodes. There wasn't a specific goal in each episode. It's the goal was the same. I love the Q moments. They almost made me cry. Comparatively to season 1, where you just had you had bits in it again, but they were too stretched out. My final thoughts are, don't screw up the timeline by falling in love with an attractive doctor. It's just not the way it works, and that is just not the way you're going to do it. He also, he took on a kid, he invented things, he kind of changed the timeline a lot. Could be some horrible repercussions there, or no repercussions at all. Probably no repercussions at all. Star Trek Picard Season 2, I would definitely give out of 10. I would have given Season 1 definitely probably a 6 out of 10. I'd probably give this a 7.5, 8 out of 10. Very rarely would you get 10 out of 10. So tell me what you think. Subscribe, like, comment.